I had the most incredible chat with LaChelle Wieme I on the Spiral Up podcast. And what we talked about is really going to help you transform your business story into a powerful client magnet that builds trust and drives sales. So I'm going to share that conversation with you today.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Spiral Up podcast. I am your host, Dr. LaChelle Wieme, and boy, are you in for a treat today. You guys get a chance to talk to one of my colleagues, one of my friends, one of my Spiral Up experts, founder of the amazing company Red Door Designs, Kris Jones. You guys, she is a powerhouse when it comes to really getting down our messaging and making sure that the world understands what it is that we do and how we do it in a succinct, direct way. Because I don't know about you guys as you're listening to this, but how many of you have when somebody asks you what you do, it's either like this corny elevator speech that feels really stuffy, or it's like blah 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 and you're word vomiting all over them, and then they're like, I don't really understand still, right? And so when I met Kris, gosh, it's been a couple years now, I believe. You and I totally hit it off, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need you in my life. And I invited Kris to be a part of my signature Spiral Up program so that my clients get a chance to meet with Kris and they get a chance to learn from her inside of our back office and all of the things, because what she does, you guys, is so flippin' powerful. And for her to get inside my head and be like, this is exactly what you do. I'm like, yes, this is what I do, has been such a gift. And I'm so grateful that you've been, part of my tribe for a while now. And if you guys want to see an example of Kris's work, head on over to iamlifebydesign.com. You can see my homepage was beautifully orchestrated by this brilliant woman. And Kris, I'm so glad you're here.
Oh my gosh, LaChelle, I am beyond delighted to be here today.
So I know I kind of gave them a little snapshot of what you do, but what I miss, give me some passion and some inside, scoop into what it is that you do for people.
Yeah, well, you hit the nail on the head. A lot of entrepreneurs are so close to their own business that they really struggle to write about what they do or find the words to communicate what they do. And this is a lot like being stuck inside of a bottle, trying to read the label of that bottle that can only be read from outside. And so, as entrepreneurs, we get stuck in that bottle and we think if we work harder, if we try harder, if we spend more time on it, we're going to have some kind of a breakthrough. But ultimately, what we really need is someone to look at our bottle, read the label for us, and give us the clarity and actually be able to identify what makes you unique. What's your special sauce? How are you different from everybody else out there? And then put that into words. And so when I put that into words for my clients, what I'm really doing is crafting their signature story. And the beautiful thing is when you have a signature story for your business, you can use it on your website. You can use it, a shorter version of that story, to answer that question, what do you do, in a compelling way that invites engaging conversation. And you can repurpose the story literally in every area of your business. So the goal is really to use the story to become more memorable, to help you reach more people with less effort. And that
Yeah.
is what I'm passionate about. And I love being that perspective and that perspective person and the storyteller that can really pull out the golden thread that is you and your
Yes.
genius and put it all into a narrative.
100%. I mean, what I do is, because you help me coordinate all of this stuff, but I help people manifest sustainable 5-figure months without overwhelm, without overthinking. And that has to include a strategy that allows us to work smarter, not harder. When we can be super effective in what we're doing, then the dominoes are able to fall a lot faster, right? And so oftentimes we'll try something out, we'll throw spaghetti against the wall, we'll see what sticks. And it's really just that DIYing it and that trial and error that is sometimes necessary. Let's just be real. Sometimes we have
Yeah.
to acknowledge the trial and
Yeah.
error. Even when I work with you, let's tweak this a little bit, but
Mhm.
there's so much power, you guys, in just having somebody help you move that needle and to be
Mhm.
more effective and efficient so that you can see the results faster, so that you can see the sustainable
Mhm.
change faster, so that you're not constantly running in place trying to figure out what's working when it really just took one person's outside perspective to start putting the pieces of
Mhm.
the puzzle together and
Yeah.
help you get more traction faster, right?
Yeah, I don't think there's any shortcut through that first year or 2 of being
Mhm.
self-employed. You have to do that. You have to kind of DIY stuff and figure it out to kind of understand what you're good at, what you're drawn to, what you like doing, what you don't like doing, right? You can't really jump over that part
Yeah.
of business
Yes.
ownership. But the beautiful thing is once you've gone through that, you really realize, okay, these are the things, these are the high level activities that I want to engage in. And maybe writing isn't one of them, or maybe you're tired of wasting your time doing that. And, you know, I think a lot of people early on in business have a DIY mindset, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the question I like to ask is, okay, you're saving maybe a couple $100 DIYing it, but how much are you really losing? Really, when people come to your website and they're not clicking with you, they're not resonating with you, they're not excited to work with you. When you've got tools out there and your online presence isn't accurately communicating your brilliance, like you have one person come to your website and leave, and that's a lot of money, right? So,
Yeah. No,
it's a
100%.
mindset. It's a mindset. And yeah,
All of
you
that,
know that
for
more than
sure.
anything. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think what, you specifically did for me, it just helped me to own, like, what I had already knew, but you articulated it in a way that now I felt even more confident to use these same principles, the same language, the same, core message in all of
Mhm.
the things that I'm doing so that my emails are going out and they have the same feel and the same message. My social media is doing the same, and all of the things that I'm doing are aligning. And there again, when we want to be efficient, we want to have a sustainable business, you have to be able to put the things that are coming together in this beautiful flow. And so when you can start to have the singularity in your messaging, it's going to target those people so much faster. And
Mm.
gosh, we could go on and on about this, but I really want to shift here. And I want to talk about what I've asked you to be on the show for today is your book, because I think that
Mm.
that's going to unlock this beautiful conversation. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're up to these days?
So I just finished my first book. It's called From Click to Client: How to Easily Create a Story-Driven Website That Turns Visitors into Clients. And inside the book, I walk you through my exact process, how to attract your ideal clients, how to simplify your marketing, how to command premium rates, how to really tell your story. I don't keep anything back. I have a very streamlined, effective, efficient process that I use with my one-on-one clients. And to work with me is right around the $5,500 range. But for people who aren't ready to make that kind of investment in their business, the book is the next best thing. It's like I am holding your hand through the process, and I walk you through exactly how to do it for yourself.
So, Kris, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you see are the common barriers that people have? Because, I mean, you guys know, right? Like, a part of the spiral up journey is to recognize what your butts are. What are the roadblocks? What's the barrier? What's the resistance to flow that is going to get you to where you want to go? And I'm just curious, like, what are the biggest butts that you're seeing out
I
there when it
love it.
comes to the messaging that people
Yeah,
are
well,
having?
I like big butts. But so I mean, the meaning, like, the biggest, barriers keeping somebody from doing this kind of work?
Yeah,
Um,
from their
yeah,
messaging and yeah. What
I
problem are
think
you solving in your book?
that there are people that don't recognize the power that a website
Mm,
should have.
yeah.
Sometimes people like newer into business, they're pouring all their energy into social media. But when people find you on social media, not that that can't be an effective way to grow your business, but when they find out about you, they're going to go check out your website. And if you don't have a website or you just slapped it together without any real intention, then that doesn't make the impression that you really want to make. So I think really understanding that your website should be your most powerful marketing tool, and it should really do the job of your top salesperson. It should really take a lot of hours and time and energy off your plate. The other thing that it does is it really allows your sales calls or your discovery calls to be much shorter because people get on those calls. They're already informed, they're already excited to work with you. And so that can feel like a relief. Like you're not having to sell anymore. You're just getting on the phone, guiding them through the hero's journey of your story. And when I talk about story, I'm not talking about like your background story or like the founder's story. I'm talking about crafting a narrative that invites your potential clients into a story with you, a story where you play the guide, you play the Yoda, and your clients play the Luke Skywalker. They're the hero. And
Oh,
so everything we do is really, from a messaging standpoint, very much about your clients, and it helps them feel seen, feel heard, resonate with you. And most importantly, it really builds connection and trust. And the beautiful thing is that people don't want to work with the best person. They don't want to work with the best. They want to work with the person they feel the most connected to. And story is the most powerful way to cultivate that connection.
yes, that is
Yeah.
so beautiful. And I love your story brand philosophy that you have used as the cornerstone foundation of what it is that you do. Why don't you describe a little bit more about what that is?
So there's a book called Building a Story Brand. If you're an entrepreneur, you've probably heard of it. If you haven't heard of it or read it yet, I would highly recommend you do. It's an incredibly powerful book about the power. It's a powerful book about the power of story. Um, so any story you've ever read, every movie you've ever been to, any story anyone's ever shared with you verbally always follows the same formula. If it's compelling, it follows the same formula. So this has been since like the beginning of time, gathering around the fireside. It always follows a certain flow, and it begins with a hero that has a problem they don't know how to solve, and they
Mhm.
are out and about trying to find a guide. A guide enters into the story about a third of the way through. The guide is you as the business owner. You're there to help the hero overcome their problem. And the way you do that is you give them a very clear and simple 3-step plan. The plan is when you watch movies, you're going to notice this moving forward, but the plan is really the thing that allows the hero to go, okay, I know what to do next. I can do this. Like, I know what it's going to take to get to my happy end result. So we give them a clear and simple plan. And the plan is the thing that once they hear it, they have
Mhm.
this internal thought of, I can do this. And then they are called to action. When it comes to your website, that call to action is the button. What's the big button that you want them to do next? In a movie, it's different. It calls them to action to run to the airport and go, grab the girl before she gets on the plane or whatever. But it calls them to action. And then the way we stay engaged. So the reason we go to a movie and we sit down and we don't get up for 90 minutes, we don't even look at our phone for 90 minutes.
Mhm.
It's because there are stakes in every story. The hero can succeed, but the hero could potentially fail too. And we cannot stop watching the movie until we know which of those things is going to happen. I mean, it always ends in success, typically. Um, but even though the formula is tried and true, our brains can't help but engage. And so it makes perfect sense to use this type of a framework. A lot of it is psychology, and we use the framework of story to captivate people's attention and create that connection and to really allow them to envision themselves overcoming this
Mhm.
hurdle and really getting to know us and trusting us as the perfect guide to help them get to where they want to go.
Yes, 100%. It comes down to like, does this person understand what I need? Does it work? And will it work for me?
Right.
Right?
And
It's just,
do they know what I want? Can they get me to
yes,
where I wanna be? Yeah,
exactly. And so it's
yeah.
just like you acknowledging that I get you and this
Mhm,
can work for you.
mhm.
And let me show you how to do that. And I
Right.
love how you do that very well is to make that person the subject of the story. Because
Mhm.
oftentimes I think that we, default to, hi, I'm LaChelle and I do
Yeah,
this and blah, blah, blah. And
right,
it's not about me. It's
right,
about them.
right,
And it's
right.
about me understanding them, but it's about them, right? And you do
Yeah,
such a
yeah. I mean, that's such a good point. I really liken your website, for example. That's one place that your story will live. I liken it to like a first 5-minute coffee date or even a 15-minute coffee date, but they're not there very long. They sit down, and if you were to imagine going to meet a new friend for coffee, you wouldn't sit down with them and go, this is what I do, and this is how I can solve your problem, and these are the features and the benefits, and here are all the modules. You wouldn't sit down and say that. You would say,
right.
"Hey, hi, I'm Kris. Like, what's going on for you right now? What are you struggling with? What are you hoping to achieve? Like, what do you want more than anything?" And though that's the way we connect with humans. So it shouldn't be any different than that on our websites. We want to take the time, make them the central focus of our attention by talking about their struggles, understanding the nuances of the difficulties that they're having, helping them feel seen and heard, helping them feel not alone in their struggle, and then reminding them of what's possible if they are to solve this problem. What's their life going to look like after working with you? And I think the most common mistake I see out there is really coaches thinking, and I so understand why this happens, but coaches like throwing up a website and you pick a beautiful template in Wix or Squarespace or wherever you decide. Nothing wrong with any of the builders. In fact, I love cloud-based builders.
Yeah.
But you pick a template, and those companies are in the business of brochure websites. And so they give you these little areas to input your information. And it's like, hi, I'm LaChelle, and I was, I grew up here, and this and that about you. And it's so, of course, this happens because all the templates kind of guide you to do that. But there's a big difference between a brochure website, which kind of just it's you have a website, but the website isn't doing anything for you. It's kind of sitting there like a bump on a log. And when you look back on the last year, you're like, you know what? Not any of my clients have actually found me through my website. What the heck is going on? Versus an effective website. So when you really are intentional about your website and you bring strategy to it and storytelling to it, it becomes a really powerful sales tool for you. And that's really what I love to do for my clients.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love that so much. So what would you say, Kris, would be, kind of one of the first steps that somebody could, be like, okay, yeah, I could do this. Like this seems
Mhm,
doable and it seems doable for me. So what would you say is some of the
mhm.
first steps that you would have somebody consider?
Well, I do have a freebie that would be really relevant for this. Like, the number one thing is to change the lens at which you look at your business. So to stop looking at through your own perspective and start looking at
Yeah.
it through your client's perspective and really making them the central focus of your communications. I have a freebie, it's on my website. It's called How to Write Compelling Copy in 5 Minutes Flat. It's a 5-minute video, and it's a worksheet that's going to help you. And I'm going to hold your hand every step of the way. It's going to
Mhm.
help get all that stuff in your head out onto paper. And then I'm going to show you how to organize it into 3 buckets and then combine the best items into a story. It'll be the shortest story you've ever written, but it's the most fundamental work that we can do for our business. So
Yeah.
I would say that's the first thing, is really to begin to look at yourself as the guide and not the hero of your own story, and then to go grab that freebie in 5 minutes. That's gonna really help kind
Mhm.
of break it down for you how to make that shift.
And do the people that, are going to benefit the most by your book, by your services, are these people already very clear on who their avatar is? Or is that something that you want to, spend a moment just like acknowledging in this moment? Because if you don't know who you're talking to, like this isn't going
Yes.
to work. you know?
Right, right. Yeah. Well, and that is the beauty of having that couple of years of entrepreneurship under your belt. You get to
Mhm.
work with a bunch of types of different people. You really realize these people aren't the ones that they dragged me down, or they drain my energy, and this other group of people, they're fun to work with. They appreciate me. They don't. They're eager to pay what I'm charging.
Mhm.
So that kind of clarity is really important. One of the questions that I get almost from every client, and every client thinks that they're the only one that they're the only ones that have ever asked me this, which is they're like, I do this thing. This is my expertise, and but I kind of deliver it in two different ways. Like
Mhm.
I'm working with someone who she's like a financial coach,
Mhm.
and she does do bookkeeping for business owners, but she's also an outsourced CFO for personal people
Yeah.
that just
Yeah.
have like a lot going on in their life. And so she had this question, like, how am I going to tell one story that's going to totally resonate with both of these types of people? Because they're different,
Yeah.
So do we need two stories, or can we? And I always say the same thing, which is it's you are the golden thread, and I know how to pull out the golden thread. There's overlap, there's a Venn diagram around the people that you work with, and so
Yeah.
we weave that thread throughout your whole story, and there are a bunch of different ways to just make sure we're speaking to both people and really connecting with them. But I like to do it on one page, because as a business owner, you just wanna have one address that you can send everybody to, and just know that's where, just go there, and you can self-identify, if you're the right fit or not. Just makes our
Absolutely.
lives so much easier.
Absolutely. I mean, that was one of the things that I did, this last year. You've been a part of my journey of getting all of my systems and my processes really streamlined so that I can focus on the traveling that's coming up. And that was one of the things, is that I really realized that I do have one avatar, but
Mhm,
she might need more or less support, or
mhm,
her budget might be a little bit, she can afford it, she's willing to just like make the sacrifices, or she's got to get her feet wet first. And so creating essentially a product suite
mhm,
that meets them at their journey, but it's really one person that I'm speaking to. And I think that that's really freeing, because I think a lot of times we overcomplicate, at least my clients and
Oh, yeah.
myself. That's probably why I track them, because it's easy to overcomplicate things. We want to
Yes.
make it perfect. We want to get it right, and therefore we take the easy out of it. And
Mm,
so that was one of the things that felt very freeing, is to just have this
mm,
very simple story that I
yes.
basically just get a chance to find the person, and just maybe where they're at on their journey, and how much
Mhm.
support they need around that.
That's so beautiful. Yeah, I think you nailed it with, having a suite of offerings, so people can decide at what level they want to engage, but that you're welcoming people in depending on what they want to need. The other thing that comes up a lot with my clients is they'll say, "Okay, well, I w- I work with women. I work primarily with women, but I do have, like, for every 100 women that I work with, there are like 2 or 3 men that wanna
Yeah.
work with me, and I do work with them, so I don't wanna leave those people out." And so what happens is I just remind people, really strike a chord, really connect with the 80% of the people that are coming to you. The other 20%, the riffraff or whatever, that's not a derogatory term. It's just like
Yeah.
those other people are going to come to you anyway, no matter what. And
Yes.
so let's focus on that
Mhm.
80% that you
Yes.
really want to. If you mostly work with women, we are talking to women.
Yes.
Um,
100%.
yeah, and then you can decide if somebody comes to you outside of that definition,
Yeah.
you could just decide, "Oh, yeah, I'm gonna make an exception," or, "Yes, I work with men too, but I just it's not as often, so
Yeah.
you're
And,
welcome,
people
come in." Yeah,
will connect with your messaging. And I find that a lot when I'm working with clients as well, Kris, that they're afraid to niche down. And when we
yeah,
speak to everyone, we speak to no one, right? And so that's why
yeah,
you're so good at what you do. And so they're afraid to niche down. And love telling the story. So I'm just going to share the story because you might be tickled by this too. So my very first coach that I ever hired was
mhm,
somebody that had this weekend intensive. So it was like a, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And, in my opinion at the time, like $3,000 is a lot of money to spend on somebody, right? And the thing that was so interesting about this particular coach was that she very specifically marketed to brand new coaches that were African American women.
mhm,
Okay. So
mhm.
if you guys are watching me on video right now or have seen any of my pictures, I am not African American. And I was just like, "Okay, I love your messaging so
Yeah,
much." Like, he was, like, speaking to me.
yeah.
And so I reached out to her. I'm like, "LaChelle, I'm not really necessarily in your target audience, but, would we" her name was LaChelle, by the way. That's how we met. Like,
Oh
God
my gosh!
brought us together. So I was like, "Hey, LaChelle, like, I love your name." No, but I was like, I know that, I don't fall into like who you're specifically marketing to, but I really love your message. Would we, be able to work together? And she's like, absolutely, And so I think that it's like even more of just a power of her messaging and what she was doing was speaking to me. And so the right people, you guys, are going to find you regardless if it's a man or a woman, black or white,
Right.
you know, whatever. Like if the messaging is so point on,
Mm,
you're not going to have to worry about missing out on people. You
mm,
can very confidently niche down to speak so directly to the person that they're like, "How in the heck did you get in my head? Like,
mhm,
how do you know this? Like, how
mhm,
do you know me so well?" And
mhm.
that's how you know that you did it well. And then it takes very little. Like, I'm like, I already knew that I was going to work with her even before we got on the sales call.
Right.
You can let your messaging sell for you so
Yeah.
that you don't have to worry about having to convince anybody of anything. They're basically saying, "Can I still work with you?" And that's how you know you did it well. So,
Yes, I love that story. I love it. And how was the weekend for you? Was it really wonderful?
yeah, of course,
Yeah.
she met my needs exactly where I needed to be, and
Uh-huh.
I think that, it's so cool, like, how the right people are gonna be sent to you exactly when you need them, and,
Mhm.
I'm very open and aligned with, like, when you are solution oriented and you're open to the solution, the universe will send you the solution, but you have to be willing to be
Totally.
open to it, and you have to be willing to receive it, right? And so, it's
Right.
fun, like, you showed up when I needed you, and I've been able to share your beautiful work with several of my clients, and so it's
Yes.
so fun.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Okay,
Well,
so
yeah.
Chris, I want to know, like, as we kind of like starting to wrap up the conversation, I want to know what else you want your person who's listening, because they know they're like raising their hand right now, like, oh my gosh, she's totally speaking my language. Like, yes, I don't know how the heck to say what I'm doing, and I do feel like I'm floundering, and I do want to have my website sell for me, and all the things. Like, how do you want to wrap up this conversation and how do you want to speak to that person? Like, what do they need to know?
Oh, I mean, I have a lot to say. I think that the first thing I would say is get support. If you're struggling with your messaging, get support because it's so important,
Mhm.
and it does so much of the heavy lifting for you, and just like you resonated with the other Lachelle's message, right? You resonated with the words so much that you had to reach out with her even though it was clear you are
Mhm.
not, like, her ideal client, and, it's on a lesser scale, when you go to Amazon and you buy something, you
Mhm,
look at the picture of it, but you don't buy it based on the picture. You look at the reviews and the words
mhm,
that people have shared about it, and that's when you hit that buy button.
yeah.
And so your words really matter. If you wanna get off the hamster wheel, that I think you touched on this earlier, LaChelle, which is just like, it's human nature to make things more complicated than they need to be.
Yes.
And as an entrepreneur, we're often doing a lot of this stuff in a silo. We don't have a team of people. We don't have people we can bounce things off of. And that can accelerate the complicated, all the stuff. I liken like all the ideas and all the stuff we have in our head as entrepreneurs. Like it's a lot like a typical American garage. You walk outside, there's piles of boxes, the cars are actually parked in the driveway because there's so much stuff in the garage,
Yeah.
and it's really hard to identify what's the treasure in this garage and what's the trash? What's the
Yes.
clutter? Where's
Yes.
the I can't tell. They're all boxes, they're overflowing, they're, tipping over. And when you get the support that you need, you get to very clearly identify the treasure, the golden thread that is within you, and you can clear away all the clutter. And I think of story, a compelling story is really, you can look at it like a filtration device. It
Mhm,
filters out all the noise and it keeps one beautiful, clear, and simple narrative that truly connects.
mhm,
So I think that my passion is really like helping alleviate the
mhm.
struggle of trying to do it all alone, and also let people know that, like, you don't have to be everywhere doing everything. When I
Yes.
think about your website, as I think of your website as the center of your marketing universe,
Mhm,
everything that you do in life and in marketing or
mhm.
any activity
Yeah.
points people back to the website. Point
Yeah.
people back. If you're on a podcast, point people back to the website. If you're at a networking event, point people to the website.
Mhm,
And it can just alleviate so much of
mhm.
the selling, the directing, the figuring out where to send people. A lot of people that I work with are like, "Oh, I just send people to my LinkedIn because I'm ashamed of my website." And that is common. I mean, that is common. People, entrepreneurs just
Mhm.
pretending their website doesn't exist because it's so disconnected from who they truly are and what they're
Mhm.
all about, that it just doesn't resonate with them and they're ashamed of it. And so one of the big things that I like to teach my clients is pick one or two things that you genuinely enjoy, like podcast guesting, or do you really love making YouTube videos, or
Yeah.
do you really love email marketing? Just pick one or two. You don't have to do If social media isn't your thing, you do not have to be on social media. Period. You
Right.
don't. And do podcast guesting instead of social media. I personally don't love being on social media. Like, I have nothing against it. I enjoy, like, scrolling Instagram, but I don't wanna spend my time creating posts for Instagram. So
Mhm.
I my one of my things that I chose was podcast guesting, which is why I'm here right now. It's fun.
Yeah.
Effortless. It doesn't feel like the constant homework that's hanging over my shoulder that I'm never done with. And so, um, I would just say, like, don't adopt marketing ideas just because that's what everybody else is
Oh
doing,
my gosh, 100%.
right? Yeah,
That's how we get into overwhelm and burnout and,
yeah,
shooting ourselves, and how
yeah,
we get into this place of suboptimal productivity because we're doing too many things instead of doing anything really, really well. And
yeah,
there's something that you said that I wanna make sure that we touch on briefly because I think it's important. So you mentioned that our website is kind of like the central home, the hub of somebody's business, which I totally agree, right? And you also gave this beautiful analogy of, clean out the garage and, what's the garbage and what's not. And I think that one of the things that I have been guilty of in the past before we worked together is because my website was my home base. right? And it collected all of the things that I have going on.
Yeah.
It's really easy for me to just have this overwhelming space for people to come
Mhm.
instead of being very clear in one call to action, one
Mhm.
place that we're asking them to go. And I just wanted to hear what your perspective is on that, because I think that's a really unique lens that a lot of people are possibly missing.
Yeah, I mean, I've never done speed dating before, but, I know it's a thing, and and I think it'd be kind of fun, but, I really think of your website as, like, a first five-minute coffee date. It is really not the place to overwhelm people with information, and I know, like, no one's intention is to overwhelm that person with information, but they're like, "I had this idea, or I should add this to my website. I'm gonna add this," and then a year goes by, and it's kind of all a collection of it's almost like a collage of, like, ideas and little phrases, and I think ultimately, um what it does is it just allows it forces people to spend more time on the website to figure
Mhm.
out what's the essence of what you do, and when people have to burn brain calories to figure out what it is that you do, their brains will literally shut off. Our brains are
Yeah.
constantly trying to conserve calories, so if you kind of have a collage of ideas and information and phrases and pictures and gifs and stuff like that, it's fun to create that stuff. I mean, I think you and I both share this love of just design and beautiful graphics, and I
Yeah.
remember you telling me one time, "My happy place is in Canva on a weekend creating, like,
I
visuals."
had the whole house to myself. That's what I would be on is doing
Totally.
things in Canva.
I totally hear you on that. I love, like, visual storytelling too is
Mhm.
super powerful.
Yeah.
Um, but your website is not your resume. It is not a hub for all your ideas and information. If you want to do that, create a hidden page on your website and just have that be your brain dump of ideas.
Yeah.
But don't make it public facing. Like again, it really does come down to it's helpful to think about story as that filtration device. It's
Yeah.
filtering out the noise and
Mhm.
keeping one clear, cohesive, beautiful
Yes.
narrative. Yeah.
I love that so much. And I'm just gonna say that, like, I'm sure people are just dying. Like, how do I get access to you? So, you guys are gonna have all of the ways that you can get her book in the show notes, as well as how to connect with her, follow her, check out her website, all the things inside the show notes. So, I'm just gonna say that. And I'm just gonna like give you a little bit of like this truth of the hug nudge, okay? Because I think that a lot of our butts are that I will deal with my website when I get all of these other projects done. I'll add it to the list. I'll add it to the garbage pile of things that I will do in order to become a better business owner. And that was, total guilty on that side myself. And one of the things that I appreciated about you specifically, Kris, is that you basically took the hard work out of it. You had me do a worksheet, and then you essentially created the copy of my website for me in a matter of, I don't even know. It was very short period of time, like very short turnaround. And
Mhm.
I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like that was not as hard as I thought it was gonna be." And so I could check that off my list. And so if you guys are at that point where you're like, "Okay, yep, I got a big butt around that. I know that it's just gonna be something that I'm gonna add to my list and then should on myself."
Mhm.
That would be a nudge to possibly reach out to Kris and see, what that could look like for you. If you're
Mhm.
not there yet, if you're still in the space where you are, starting your business, you're in that exploration stage, the book is going to be such an amazing way for
Mhm.
you to get the help that you need now with where you are. And I'm just going to say, like, one of the last people that I've hired, I read her book and I'm like, this woman's speaking to me. And so who knows, you might find yourself in the space where you're like, well, I guess I'm making this a priority before I thought I would. So it's been really fun to see kind of where the journey is. And when you're ready for a solution will appear. And in the quantum space, like, be thankful for the solution already. And I believe very much so, Kris, that our conversation is going to be a blessing for somebody who's listening to this, whether it be a little tweak here or there to make things more effective and efficient, or like, oh my gosh, where have you been in my life? And so I'm just so glad that I got to spend some time with my friend and that people got a chance to know you and you guys got to see the caliber of people that we have inside of the Spiral Up and the experts that I bring in to not only work with clients, but to teach clients. And I mean, these are people I handpick. And Kris, you are the cream of the crop, sister. So I'm so glad that you're.
Aw. Ah, thank you. Such an honor to be in your close network. I can't even tell you. You are such a bright star, and every time I'm around you, I feel more and more energized, and that is in and of itself just a wonderful quality. So, thank you.
Thank you. You guys, I hope that you got as much out of this as I did. Make sure that you leave a review. We love to listen to things that you say on stories and social media. We love to read your reviews. We love to just find out how we impacted you. So please reach out. And I know you'll get an email. If you're on my email list, you'll get an email with the link to this episode. So reply back to that. Like, let me know how this resonated with you. And I'm so glad you're here. And I will see you all next time. Bye, everybody.
Is your website turning away potential clients? I can help you turn that around. Book a money-making messaging call with me today, and we'll transform your story into your most powerful sales tool. That's all for this episode of From Click to Client. Don't forget to subscribe and follow. I'm Kris Jones, and I'll see you next time.